is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
This is episode 450. Episode 450. Can you believe that? Of the most complete talk show on the 1st of December 2021. And what does that mean? We are only 4 weeks away to the end of 2021 or celebrating a new year or whatever is the definition of new year as per your understanding and your culture. Every culture, every demography has a different definition of a new year, and it just does not mean the first of a new year. It can mean anything, but in this context, just a month remains to the end of new year, and whatever is the definition of new year for different demographies, cultures, and other such regions. But it is the most complete talk show on the planet. Otherwise, you wouldn't reach 450 episodes. And what does that mean for others? Other talk shows are nothing more than bootleg. And it is a day of celebration, which means we are only 550 episodes away from completing 1,000 episodes. And how much time is left for 550 episodes? Going by the calculations, only 3 years and 6 months remain to the end to complete 1,000 episodes. Anything can happen in 3 years, but so much has happened since this talk show debuted a couple 3 years ago. So, yes, what will happen in 2024 remains to be seen, but whether it's the 1st of December 2021 or on the day we celebrate episode number 1000, it will remain the most complete talk show on the planet, in the universe, in the galaxy, and beyond. Every planet will celebrate, even if those planets don't have human lives. But let's move on to something more interesting. For the past few weeks, I've been talking about a surprise. Surprise is coming. For the past 1 week, I've been saying 1 week remains, 1 day remains, and finally, the day to reveal the surprise has come. And what's this surprise? What's something that I have been talking about for the past month, past week? Well, the surprise is here in front of you. My fourth book is finally published and it's there right in front of you. And then those who want to know how you can purchase this particular production, well, for that, let me just show you the appropriate place to go. It's available on Amazon. You can go and purchase this book on Amazon in the paperback or the ebook format. For paperback, you will need to have access to the Amazon.com account, that is any other account than an Indian Amazon account. And if you want to purchase the ebook, the Kindle version, you must have received the mail by now. So check that email and you will know where to purchase what. What is your preference? Let that be your preference. But yes, that's the surprise I have been talking about for the past few weeks. And that's the most interesting thing in this whole situation. But let's talk more about the 450th episode, a day to celebrate. Before we go into details about the 450th episode, let's take a short break. Welcome back after the break. So, yes, this was the surprise I was talking about over the past few weeks, and I will talk more about it as time progresses. But for now, let's move on to a different subject. So, so the India versus New Zealand Test Championship first match was drawn. What does that mean? Well, for those who don't know what is a drawn match, they know that in hockey and in football and allied sports, in team sports, if two teams have the same score at the end of full time, that is, if in football you are 1-all, 2-all, 3-all, or in hockey after 60 minutes of sweating and hard work and everything, you still are at 1-all, which means the match is drawn or tied. Scores are level at this point. And then if it's a situation where it's a knockout match, then you have the penalty shootouts. But in regular matches, there are no penalty shootouts or penalty stroke, whatever that means. But in cricket, match drawn means after 5 days, the team which was chasing in the fourth innings, means their second innings, New Zealand had to chase around 280 runs, and India took wickets, 9 wickets, but you have to take 10 wickets to constitute a victory. That's the rule over the past 150 years. Most of us know about it, but let's still discuss. This is not the first drawn match, nor it will be the last, but yes, you were looking at New Zealand as a slighter, weaker team because some of their main players were not there. The players who were in the main roster were missing. Yes, a couple of fast bowlers, couple of all rounders who deserved to be there. They had a couple of debutants, couple of players not scoring runs, not in form, couple of players new to condition in India. Though I don't know what does that mean, but that's the way it is. So New Zealand, after 98 overs on the final day, did not lose the 10th wicket. Why? Because bad light came into play. Remember, when this match started, I said bad light will play a role, and it did. Every day it played a role, which meant bad light. How did bad light happen? Because of shoddy umpiring. The umpires were not trained enough to understand how do we go about this situation. They tried to drag the match as much as possible, but it became dark. And why did it become dark? Because it was happening in the northern part of the country in the peak of winter. So you can question winters in the north, which are a fiction and not a fact. Winters in north are for jokers. I don't know, but it's basically bad light means smog and heavy cloud cover and the whole pollution rhetoric happening. It was more because of that fading light. It's not the first place where light fades, and it's not expected that in the northern part of the country the light will fade faster than the eastern part of the country. So yes, that makes a difference. But shoddy umpiring overall, the umpiring by the television umpire, the video umpire, and the two standing officials, they could not control the match. They had no grip over their players. And as I already said in the previous episode about how umpires have quasi-powered, means if a player does something which is inappropriate according to the rules of the game, though I never believe it's a gentle person's game or a gentleman or a lady's game or whatever. I think a bit of aggression is fine as long as it doesn't lead to blows and couple of punches. Till that time, I don't mind if players come close to each other and confront. It's fine as long as it doesn't lead to something untoward and some freakish injury. I don't mind that. It's fine. But that's not for this sport. But yes, shoddy umpiring, unable to contribute, and then the inferior venue, which meant, as I said when this match started, why did you choose a northern venue when you knew fog and smog and winter influence will mean bad light? And why not start the match at 11 a.m.? The match eventually ended in a draw because the New Zealand batters, that is the lower order tail, couple of all-rounders, defied the Indian bowling or whatever you may want to call it, not the first time. So Ejaz Patel and Rachin Ravindra did what Hanuma Vihari and Ashwin did a year ago, but then they survived 30 overs. These individuals survived 8 overs, and that was against fast bowling. So that makes it, and that was a draw because not because of bad light, not because of rain, not because of fading conditions that was happening in Australia. And bad light never plays a role in Australia or England till it becomes too dark and overcast. So in England, bad light will always be a factor, but still they start the match at 11 o'clock local time so that they can drag it as much as possible. Of course, there is a cutoff time, and there's the question of over rates. I think over rates have always been in question. Now, the interesting thing is over rates means how many overs are you able to bowl per hour. And the International Cricket Body says that if you don't bowl the appropriate number of overs in a day, that is 90, barring bad light and such and rains and such external factors, you will be deducted points. But my question is, you are punished for not following the rules regarding overhead. What if a team, where is the reward? Yes, teams are punished, which is fair, but then can't they be given 1 point for adhering to the overhead? It was a draw, you got 4 points. But the fact that they bowled 93 overs, more than the required number of overs on that day, which is a huge thing because spinners bowled more than 50% of the overs, around 45 overs out of 93 overs. So why don't we have a situation where, and this happens only in cricket, no other sport, but let's take it in that manner. Why weren't both the teams given one more point for adhering to the over rate? They allowed 15, 16 overs an hour. You can only punish, you can only take away 2 points. But are you so selfish and are you so rigid in your rules that you can't give 1 point? Well, if I was part of the technical committee, and it won't be long before they invite me, I will have a situation where, like 50 overs and 20 overs, if a team cannot chase in a 5 day match, then they lose by the margin the target they are supposed to chase. So they're chasing 470 and they end up at 440 at the end of all the 5 days, the team chasing, and they're 440 for 9, and the bowling team doesn't take the wicket, they lose by 30 runs. Here, New Zealand should have ideally lost by 120 runs. And then I will allow free hits, wides, power plays, all those things. I don't care how rigid people are about this. The more rigid you are, the more flexible the rule should be. So, yes, if the ICC technical committee or whoever makes rule is listening, if a team is able to adhere to the over rate more than they should, then award them points. Don't just punish. Don't be one sided, because that's not the way sport works. But nowhere in the world, if you are nice, are you awarded points. You're only given a red card, a green card for violation of the rules. In no sport, if a player adheres to the rules, and why, then that's why players don't want to adhere to the rule, because they know they won't be given any points. So you better break the rule, and I'm sure in a few days' time you will see the match referee, you will see in the print, electronic, and pseudo media that the match referee may have fined a few players for their transgressions, and of course, a certain player from India will always find himself in the line of fire, because that's what it is. The report hasn't come right now. See, it's taken, the match ended on Monday. It's Wednesday now. It's almost taken 48 hours for the match referee to write up a report. By this time, if I was a match referee, I would have made the report. I would have immediately interfered in the match if there was controversies, and I would have said, no, that kind of behavior is not going to happen. I'm not going to wait 48 hours. I'm going to call them inside my room during the break time, talk to them, ask what is the issue, listen to both sides, and then adjudicate. Otherwise, a match referee is someone who is enjoying himself, enjoying the food, enjoying the air condition or the heating, depending on whether it's a month of May or the month of November. You may be a former player. It doesn't matter if you were a former player. If you have to be objected, then you should not wait 2 days to make a report and fine the player, because the match referee, the umpires were all from India, which means there will be bias as far as the report is concerned. So in the next, yes, foreign umpires cannot travel because of course, the situation happening now. So you are forced to go to Indian umpires, which means they will try their best not to be biased. The fact that Indian umpires are not trained, things are not going to look good. And so we may have the same umpires, they may switch positions. One of the umpires may become the fourth umpire, the fourth umpire may become the standing umpire, one of the standing umpires may become the TV umpire, but that's the way it is. So, yes, bad light because of inferior venue as well as shoddy umpiring contribute to the drawn match, and not just the effort by number 10 and 11. But that's the way it is. It's a drawn match, 0-0. And then the two matches, no fun in having two matches. I always want in such situations odd number of matches because you will have a result. It won't be a draw. If it's two matches, four matches, six matches, it means it can go to 3-3, it could be 4-2, it could be 5-1, but 3-3 is a possibility. If there are 3-5-7, then it means it's 3-4, 5-2, or 3-4 is a possibility in three matches, 2-1 is a possibility, 1-all is a possibility. But in two matches, if New Zealand somehow win the next match, because they say it's happening in Bombay, so spinners may not make much of an impact. It's a greenish wicket, whatever that means. And New Zealand may go with a couple of more bowlers. Wagner may even have the all-rounder who did well for New Zealand in the T20 Cup, Daryl Mitchell as the all-rounder. It could be a possibility that the likes of Rachin Ravindra or William Somerville may be replaced by Neil Wagner and Daryl Mitchell, which means they will have four fast bowlers, which will make the captain more comfortable because there is no Colin the Grand Home. He's maybe a Grand Home, and right now he is at home, not doing anything, injured or whatever that means, or is in the retirement phase. I have no idea. And then, as far as the Indian team is concerned, the question becomes who will Kohli replace? Who will be the one who will find themselves lucky between Rahane, Pujara, and Shreyas? And now there is the clambering, there's a negative campaigning, and blah 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 that one of Rahane and Pujara has to go despite the confidence of the coach. But that is something that remains to be seen. And that's something we don't know much about, if that will really happen. But that's the nature of these situations. You can't do anything about it. So, yes, this match begins on Friday, which means the next 48 hours, the team management and the shoddy selectors will keep everyone guessing as to who will play. Will you see Siraj play? Will you see an extra? Will India go with a four fast bowlers and one spinner combination, which means one out of Akshar Patel, Ashwin, and Jadeja may find themselves out, and with Riddhiman Saha injured, he only batted but did not keep at all because of his injury, shoulder, neck, somewhere. Is he out of the team? Will they give that chance to Bharat? That remains to be seen. I would not want Kohli to replace any of them, but you can only have 11 players, and I want till the time Pant comes back. Jadeja is my number 6. Ashwin is the best. People talk about Ashwin being the best all-rounder. Fair enough. You have 3 good spinning all-rounders. You don't have a fast bowling all-rounder with Shardul Thakur not considered for this tournament. So that's the thing which will be very, very interesting. So who will be in, who will be out? Controversies galore. The coach, as always, in support of Pujara and Rahane, not worried about that. But I think that's the first error by the current coach. If he's gone on the ultra defensive to defend one player or two players who are not making runs, this might work against him as far as the pseudo media is concerned, because everyone will say, what different will this guy do? Will this particular coach be harsh? Even if he trained Rahane and Pujara when they were making their debuts. And that will be the challenge. If I think the coach should have not gone on the ultra defensive. He should have said, yes, those who are not making runs will make sure that they go back to the drawing board or go back to the domestic matches. So ironically, domestic matches are not taking place right now, which is, well, we can debate on that forever. But he should have just said, I'm working with the players who are not making runs on whatever issues they have. instead of going on the ultra defensive, because this might work against the coach because he's been specific about one or two particular players. The print, electronic, and pseudo media can be because they don't have any kind of relationship with the players. Print media is supposed to be biased. There is no objectivity as far as media is concerned. It wasn't 100 years ago, it won't be 100 years from now. Even if tomorrow newspapers die, that is, you won't see the physical copies. We talk about media being biased or being unbiased or being objective. That's never happening. I've been part of those debates. If that was the case, then we wouldn't be focused on two players, because then the media would say, okay, these two did not make runs. But what happens? We go after Hane and Pujara, and then we are so much in love with the former players. We still cannot get over them. We still talk about the Gangulis, the Vengsarkars, or the Vishwanaths. I'm sure they must have not made runs once in their career. They must have had a patch over 12 to 18 months. And maybe the media wasn't invested 40 years ago when these players were playing, or 20 years ago. Their investment only began 7 8 years ago, till let's say 2010 2011. They were not that much invested. They were there, and yet they were not there. So don't expect any nicety. But don't be surprised if a decade from now, once these two retire, because eventually you have to, they might be in praise. I'm sure when Dravid came into the team, nobody thought him of as a legend. We only look at players as a legend because we have bias. Because Dravid is not the only legend. We are still obsessed. Because in 2001, Dravid and Lakshman did something which was unexpected of the Indian team. I wasn't surprised what they did. A 400 partnership against, because we were obsessed about a strong Australian team. We are still talking about the Garfield Sobers and the Greenwich and Haynes. I don't know why. Yes, they were there. They were great. But every time I see a West Indies team and another team, the West Indies commentators cannot but talk about the team of 70s and 80s. Let me tell you, there is no concept of West Indies. All the players in West Indies are from 10, 12 different islands. They have no loyalty to the West Indies. There is no West Indies. West Indies is just a pseudonym given to a country which is consisting of 10, 12 different islands, and they have their own culture, their own flags, their own democracy. There is no connection. So there is no West Indies. You have one Barbados and Guyana and Jamaica and Dominica Republic, so many teams. There's a Caribbean. They're part of North America, but they are still 11 independent nations. So it's just a coincidence that that's why in 70s, 80s they somehow managed to come together, but they were not a team. They won because the other teams were not doing the job. So if one team keeps winning, 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 and beating all teams, despite the fact that there is no unity, there is no loyalty to a country, then we start saying crazy things about them. You must have heard about a certain country in that region becoming a republic, but I won't go into that. But there is no West Indies. It's 11 islands, players from different countries, and some of them got together. Just like in India, you have players from different states, and somehow India makes them united. Otherwise, there is no concept of a country anywhere. But that will hurt a few people, so I won't go into detail, but that's how it is. But yes, who will Kohli replace? That's the question. We will know on the morning of Friday morning when they finally do it. He comes, the attitude changes, or whatever happens, and yeah. So let's see how this whole thing happens. Remember, before I end this morning's program, once upon a time, Ganguly was dropped from the team for almost 1.5 years. He had altercation with a certain coach, and the captain and everybody. He was gone from the team from 2000. He came back in 2006, 2007. He wasn't even part of the team. And yet, he is the chairperson of the cricket body. And yet, he is there. He had his issues. He came back in 6, 7. He retired in 8. So, not the first player who had issues with form and players, and this will continue. All right. But the interesting thing is in football, you don't really have to score goals to be a great player. You can assist in helping your teammates score a goal, and yet you will be given that respect. If Rane and Pujara, let's say in the next match, they get out for 75 after after 200 balls, not enough. Score a century. We only create this atmosphere that nothing less than 100 is enough. Whether it's academics or sports, nothing less than a gold medal is enough. Silver is not enough. Silver is not enough effort. Winning a tournament is the thing. Coming close, being a semi finalist, being a runner up, getting the gold medal, nothing less than a gold medal is enough. And that's what irks me. But that's how sport is, that's how academics is, and that's how it will remain. And you will find such discussions in this book, so don't forget to buy a copy. For now, let's take a short break. So this ends episode number 450, a milestone episode, and which saw the release of my book, The Human Paradox. So this ends episode number 450 on the 1st of December 2021, as we come close to the end of 2021 and a new year, or whatever new year means for different people. But for now, stay tuned for the next episode as the juggernaut rolls on.
For more awesome content, tune into the next episode of the weekly show with Ravi.
And I will be back on the 3rd of December 2021 with episode number 451. Till then, put these books in your must read books column. Once again, a reminder, put these books in your must read books column.